so he leaves prison deep into what he views as religion. You pointed out he goes and meets with bin Laden, sits down. Bin Laden says, "Nah, fam, you're crazy." Bin Laden still gave him a little bit of funding, though, to send him to another place. Where was it in Afghanistan he got sent to?
Herat, so out in the sort of far western part of Afghanistan. So you could go way out there on the border with Iran and do your own thing out there. And we'll make this little organization just for people from the Levant, so Jordanians, Lebanese, Syrians, people from that part of the world. And you can have them and you can do what you want to do, but you're not Al-Qaeda and you're not part of our brand.
So he's basically a cast-off, essentially. And bin Laden thinks he's probably going to hear the last of him. This is because he got out of prison, what, 99?
Yeah.
So this is also like 99, 2000?
So creeping up on 2001. So getting close to a very fateful time in American history, because at this moment, Al-Qaeda is planning what becomes the 9/11 attack. Zarqawi had nothing to do with it. He's off in his own little thing. Nobody probably ever would have heard of him again. He was just kind of off by himself. And then 9/11 happens, and there's this diaspora. All these guys go kind of scoot off their own way. Bin Laden goes into hiding in Pakistan. Zarqawi goes across the mountains into Iraq, into this sort of a no man's land between Iran and Iraq, and tries to restart his terrorist group there. And probably would have, again, faded into obscurity, except for the fact that the United States was making great plans to invade Iraq.
Yes.
And that was sort of the moment, sort of the turn of history that made him, again, rise to the world stage.
So he became, in all the wrong ways, he became the right guy in the right place at the right time because of where he went. But still, after 9/11, it's not like, at least it seems to me, it's not like this dude was anywhere near the top of any list of like terrorist watch lists at the CIA or in intelligence organizations. No, he was still pretty outside small potatoes.
Yeah. But in fact, and this is another of the ironies, in this little enclave that he developed in the no man's land between Iraq and Iran, the CIA knew where he was and knew he was a bad guy, knew he was affiliated with terrorist organizations, and wanted to take him out. And a plan was developed in late 2000. Let's get my years right. Late 2002 to go after him in this little place where he was in the mountains, and the Bush administration essentially vetoed that idea because they wanted to have this invasion in Iraq. They were afraid that if they did something, they would alert Saddam Hussein to their plans or just kind of disrupt the invasion schedule for some reason. So decided not to do it. So they let Zarqawi essentially get away.
And it's also off-brand because they were trying to sell like Al-Qaeda and Saddam got along, which Saddam was an awful guy, but that was not true at all.
He was not part of Al-Qaeda. He had no friendship with Al-Qaeda to speak of.
And then they end up using Zarqawi as a... All right, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but around this time, essentially, they don't take this shot, and then we invaded Iraq in March 2003, right? Yep. Okay, so what was the thing again where in the infamous speech that Colin Powell gave at the UN ahead of the invasion, I guess in like February or early March 2003, he spent, I don't know, maybe it was like 15, 20 minutes of this very long speech, however long it was, talking specifically about Al-Zarqawi as one of the reasons why an invasion was going to be merited. So what happened there? Because now, the tinfoil hats out there go, oh, so they didn't take their shot at this guy, and then he gets used in a speech fucking 3 months later.
Yeah. So they missed their shot, like you say. But then in February of 2002, the United States is trying to make the case for the invasion of Iraq. Of 3,
yeah.
Correct. And so Colin Powell goes to the UN Security Council, makes this big presentation, talks about the weapons of mass destruction, which we know in hindsight didn't exist.
Yikes.
But the other reason for the attack was this alleged association between between Saddam Hussein and Al-Qaeda. He was trying to argue that these two were in collusion, and if Saddam Hussein gives Al-Qaeda weapons of mass destruction, it'll make them much more dangerous. And they didn't really have any evidence of that, but they'd had this one strange guy, Zarqawi, who was physically located in Iraq. He was up in the mountains where Saddam Hussein couldn't get to him because he was in the Kurdish area and it was in the no-fly zone. But he had once met bin Laden. He had once tried to be part of Al-Qaeda. And so it was enough of a sort of a thread of evidence that Powell felt comfortable going to the Security Council and saying, see, this guy's Zarqawi, he's our evidence. Here's a guy in Iraq who's in cahoots with Al-Qaeda. This is the connection that we've been trying to tell you about. Turns out it was all bullshit. There was no connection. Zarqawi was, hated Saddam, and Saddam hated him, if he even knew it existed. He just didn't like these little offshoot groups in his mountains. But it became this sort of one of the reasons we went to war in Iraq in 2003.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. Please hit that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.